it's been about a week since the last update on the fuel pump issue. Let's see if there's any long crank or anything like that. Nope. So I'll tell you guys what my plan is, according to that especially. What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. This is part 2, basically fixing the fuel pump housing leak that we have and talking to you guys about what my plan is and what we're going to try. So I have here a new lock and seal. You guys can see part number right there, A163 990-0154. And this is basically just the rubber that goes around the top of the housing, and then a new lock ring. So I really only need the rubber seal probably, but you know, comes with the lock ring, so we're gonna use it. And the other things that I have all new lines, and I also got just kind of a generic fuel filter off of Rock Auto. So these will be kind of the backup. Now, the symptoms of a bad fuel filter would be long cranks or things like that, and this car has never had an issue with that. Also, the fact that it has the newer pump style on it, because this was a 2000 model, so it should have had the short, fatter pump on it, fuel filter, sorry. It should have had the shorter fuel filter, but because it doesn't, I know that it was changed out at some point. So who knows? Could have been changed out at 100,000 miles, could have been changed out at 50,000 miles. I don't know for the car's history exactly, but I do know it was changed out at some point because it originally wouldn't have come with the long style filter. So that's kind of playing in our favor. But the plan is basically get the lines off, clean everything up before I take anything apart, take the lock seal off, and then just kind of go from there. I'll see what kind of condition everything is in. I'll inspect the lines a little more closely. And if it's as simple as pulling the lines off, putting on the new seal, putting it back together, and it's good, I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm not gonna try to change the fuel filter and lines if I feel like they all look like they're in okay shape. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but just wanted to leave you guys there. The reason I decided not to go with the whole fuel pump housing and assembly is because this one is working absolutely fine. I've never had a problem with fuel pressure or any type of weirdness as far as fuel delivery to the vehicle. And I just feel like it's kind of a shame to just chuck it out if it's still working good. The most common name brand used fuel pump housing assembly that's used is the DELPHI one, which is around $250. So I figured, you know, that money I could be spending that elsewhere on the vehicle, because everything's working. Literally the only thing that doesn't work that's a part of the fuel pump housing is the fuel center unit, and it still works. It's just inconsistent. It works basically like above 3/4 of a tank and at 1/4 a tank. It's accurate between those two measurements, but in between those it can go, you know, back and forth. So it doesn't bother me, like I said, because I have the ultra gauge. But yeah, that's why I decided not to go with the fuel pump housing. Just seemed like, you know, spending more money than I needed to fix the actual problem. The only thing that ever happened was the fuel leaking, so it'd be kind of, I don't know, unnecessary to replace the whole thing, even though that was my initial idea. Yeah, go from there. So stay tuned. All right, so I got this thing cleaned up a little bit so I can see a little bit better what's going on. And I didn't realize actually how close the fuel filter actually is. It's actually sitting right there behind the pump. It seemed like it was further away from it, but from this view you can kind of see where all the lines are going. I mean, it's hard to get in there with the camera, but you can see over there, that's the bottom end of the filter towards the driver's side, or front of the vehicle, and then over here in the back is towards the back of the vehicle. So I'm gonna try to get these lines off of, you guys are flipped right now, but I'm gonna try to get these lines off. They're a little tricky just because you got to pry on both sides and like pull up. Mercedes makes some special pliers for them, but you know, hopefully I didn't make my life too difficult by not getting them. Some people strongly recommend them. Some people say it's no problem, just use some screwdrivers or other pliers. So I'll see what we got that can make it work. I'm sure we can get them off. So see what's next. All right, this is currently where I'm at. This second one was really hard to get off. I ended up kind of breaking the clip on that one. The first one is really easy to get off, so I was hoping for easiness the way through, but I'm trying to snake through these lines, and it's going decently. But this one on the left side snakes through, and I don't know where exactly that snakes through to. I kind of have to get the filter out of the way to see exactly. So I might have to try to take off that left side clip. Otherwise, this doesn't want to come out because it's still plugged in on one side. So I'm going to try to get this left clip off and check back. All right, so got the fuel filter out. Makes a lot more sense now where everything was going, and it's actually surprising. I did not think that there was that much space right there where the fuel pump is. It's just hard to tell how everything's laid out. Seems like it's so tight up there that there wouldn't even be this much space down here between the top of the fuel tank and the body. I'm trying to work on this clip right now. I don't know if it's a pull out or a push in to release this little adapter on it, and I don't want to break it, so I'm trying to be gentle with it and see which way it goes. All right, here's the old lock and seal. Here's the new rubber seal. I just greased it up. Just the rubber was kind of dry a little bit, so I put some grease on it, help it out a little bit. See the
which direction is the arrow supposed to be pointing, do you know?
I should have. It's
to the left?
It's like straight towards the passenger door.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So this thing is kind of spring loaded, we've discovered. So we're not gonna mess with trying to pull the whole thing out. A bunch of fuel poured out when I got the second line off, so I got to clean out these connectors and then get this on somehow. So my phone is almost dying to record with, but we basically put the old lock ring on because the new one, for whatever reason, even though the grooves look, you know, practically the same, the old pump housing was just used to this one, I guess. So we just reused that. That's not the important part of the equation. It's more so the rubber seal that we renewed underneath it. So this housing is kind of spring loaded, so we chose to put the seal on, like get it all the way down underneath this, then press this into it, and then as we're pressing down on it, start the lock ring, and then tighten it to get it to catch on the threads. So that should be good. The other dilemma with this fuel filter, I guess there was two different options to choose from. One with a smaller vent hose and one with this one. And the stock one has a smaller one. So this little vent tube right here doesn't fit over the new filter. So I'm either going to reuse this filter because it seems like it's in fine shape and never was causing an issue before anyways, or I attach a piece of hose onto this somehow that will fit over here. So we'll see. All right, so I ended up just putting in the old filter because it's still working fine, and didn't want to risk that other one for the time being. So now that I know how to do this, it's a little easier to do. This is still, in my opinion, a terrible design as far as the placement of this thing and just the way the lines are attached and all that stuff. I've had multiple Mercedes before this, and every Mercedes fuel filter is relatively easy to get to. So this was not a good choice. So that's okay. the rest of the car is fairly easy to work on, so this is one of those weird things that ended up being tougher than you would expect. You can see zip ties for the win again. No reason why I want the stupid little, what's it called? Hose clamp or whatever you want to call them. It was a pain in the butt to try to get back in there, so forget it. This is a lot easier. It's holding it just fine. It's never gonna mess up. So that is basically the end of it right here. The right line is the only new one that I used. The other ones I just kept as the stock ones that were on there because they're still perfectly pliable. Nothing was wrong with them. So leaving it as is, and I'm gonna start putting everything back together. My seat is back in. I still need to vacuum right now. I did spray down some of the areas. I still got to do all of it. I'm exhausted right now. This seat is a pain in the butt to get back in. It's heavy, probably like, I don't even know, 70 pounds or more. So yeah, I just got to clean up, but everything is in, and I'll show you guys my drive home. All right, so we're back up to temp. Getting on the freeway right now. It's running good. Nothing different than before, really. Never really had an issue. The only issue was the gas leaking and the smell. Did never affect the way it was running. So good that nothing was affected negatively, and glad to have that taken care of. It was a pain in the butt getting the seat out and putting it back in. The tight space was difficult to work in. As far as everything else, I mean, it should have been a lot simpler than it was. But it's just because everything is such a tight space, and things being old and dirty and hard to, you know, get those lines off the way they are and stuff like that. It just took longer than I expected, which, no worries. I mean, I love working on the cars when it's like modding the cars or doing something that I know is a big maintenance item that needs to be done. But this one just felt like a drag, to be honest. But I'm glad that it's done, and most importantly, you know, it's safe for my wife and my son and I to be in the car. We're not getting any fuel smell, because, you know, we had been wondering about that for a while. Over summer, we would kind of smell it when the car was standing at idle like that, and I thought it was because of the catalytic converters being bad. Because I know the driver's side cat is in pieces, because I heard it rattle around and shoot out this summer. So I figured it was that, but I can tell the difference already just from driving it. I'm not smelling anything right now, so that's a relief. And one less thing on the checklist to worry about. So I'm gonna go ahead and get home, but thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.